Guys, what is going on right now? Oh, I don't even know where to start. There's so much to go over when it comes to this situation, and I'm going to do my best to cover every angle of it from start to finish. You and I, we're just going to have a chat here, okay? Where do I start? I'll start by saying, if you bought a Scotian Canadian shirt off me, it's on its way to you if it's not already there. I also did some local deliveries, met some of my awesome viewers, and I cannot wait to send this money to the Downey and Wenjack Fund on behalf of you guys and this channel. That will mean a lot to me. And I also still have some shirts left if you're interested. Now, let's get into all this, okay? Okay, I went away Friday evening for the weekend with the family, with the kids. No internet, no cell service, no Wi-Fi. And by Friday evening, I thought we had already seen the biggest news that was going to come out of Montreal before the expansion draft. Shea Weber being exposed, our captain, and his lingering issues that are going to bleed into next season. But boy, was I wrong, man. And I never would have thought in a million years I'd be talking to you guys about Carey Price potentially being done in Montreal. And pondering the fact that may have seen him play his last game already in the blue, blanc, et rouge colors. This is it's unbelievable. Really, I say unbelievable a lot. This is unbelievable. I would have never thought Bergevin would expose Carey Price, but he did, and that's the situation that we're in. He's available for Seattle to take in Wednesday's draft, and that's the best part about all this. Hey, we got to sit on this. We get to sit on this for 2 more days. I'm filming this Monday night. 2 more days of waiting to see the fate of Carey and this franchise. I mean, I figured some guys were banged up, but I did not think to the point that it would alter the look of this team, of this organization for years to come. Is Carey going to get picked? Do you think? I mean, if I'm Seattle, I don't know how you pass on Carey Price. He played junior there. He is a massive, massive name, a superstar in the NHL. I understand his contract is quite large. He's got 5 years left at a $10.5 million cap hit. He's owed a signing bonus of $11 million on August 1st. That's a lot for a startup franchise to take on. And it's not typical for teams to pay their goaltenders or allot that amount of cap space to goaltending. And the rumor is Florida's already on Chris Dredger from Florida and are going to be signing him to a few-year deal worth $3.5 million. So, but he's not a proven starter yet. And the thing is, if Seattle takes Price, they'll make that signing bonus that he's owed back in jersey sales like that. I don't think the whole financial situation when it comes to actually paying Carey Price is a big deal for Seattle. I think the big thing is what Hockey Ops is going to figure out, Ron Francis and their whole team, is whether or not they think Carey Price can be Seattle's starting goaltender for the next 3, 4, 5 years. And it is a massive risk for them to take this on because, yes, Carey waived his no movement clause to be exposed. He had to even be able to be exposed. And there's more to that story. We'll get into it. But once he gets to Seattle, the no movement clause kicks back in. So if they select him, he is theirs. And it'll be up to him whether or not he then gets to move out of Seattle. So now, oh man. Carey, he literally just went beast mode in the playoffs. I know he's had his ups and downs through the regular season. We've all been witness to that. But he went beast mode in the playoffs. A .924 save percentage. These are elite numbers, and he did it from essentially the start of the playoffs to the end, barring maybe one questionable start. But the guy was incredible. Look up his highlight reel package from the playoffs. It looks like someone's career of highlight saves. The guy was on fire. I just don't see how Seattle passes up on that. This is a just very ballsy move by Marc Bergevin and the Montreal Canadiens. And a lot of the credit here kind of has to go to Carey Price because apparently it was his idea to waive his no-move clause because he didn't want to see the Montreal Canadiens down himself due to his injuries, and we'll get into that, and also have Seattle take Jake Allen from us, and we'd be high and dry with not much in net. So I guess once the deadline was passed for players to waive their clauses, Price decided, maybe we'll do it, and the NHL granted an exception. Pass the deadline for Price to waive his no move clause, sign that waiver form, and expose himself in this draft. Now, what a leader Carey Price is to do this for the Montreal Canadiens. First of all, credit where it's due. The guy is. I have so much respect for not just the player, but the man in Carey Price, the father. Like, he's just all around the perfect example of a human being. And I'm not surprised he would do this to help out his team. Not in the slightest. Now, from his perspective, though, if he does get selected by Seattle, that's not so bad for him, really. I mean, he played junior there. His wife is from near there. He is from Anaheim Lake, BC, which is a lot closer to Seattle than it is to Montreal. Out of the limelight in Seattle a little bit. I mean, that's not really a bad situation for him either. I mean, I just don't see how Seattle passes up on him. Other than the injury woes. And that is essentially, like I already mentioned, why Carey waived the no-move clause, because he has injuries, just like Weber, that are going to bleed into next season. The Canadiens did an MRI, found something wrong with his hip that might need surgery. They also are sending him to New York to get his knee looked at, which may also require surgery. They won't know this. Montreal won't know this. Seattle won't know this until the expansion draft is over. That is a big risk for Seattle to take, especially when you couple that with the money he is owed. Oh, man. But if I'm Ron Francis, I ask myself one thing, because Marc Bergevin's playing poker right now. Just make it simple. If I'm Ron Francis, I ask myself, does Marc Bergevin want to lose Carey Price for nothing? And if the answer to that question is no, I'm taking him all day. Marc Bergevin knows what he's doing, and he's willing to take risks, big risks, and really do everything in his power to improve the Montreal Canadiens. We saw that with the offer sheet to Sebastian Aho. That was a gamble, but that was a kind of a different gamble. It was one that was not necessarily high risk, but very high reward. This move, though, is, in my eyes, very high risk, with the reward is you get to keep Jake Allen, which all the respect is due to Jake Allen for what he did to get us in the playoffs, and I absolutely want to see him continue as a Montreal Canadien, but not essentially as the 1A at this point. I'd love to see this Carey Price-Jake Allen tandem continue. That likely wasn't going to happen if Jake Allen was exposed, so I see what Bergevin's trying to do here, but I don't know. I just don't see how you pass up on a guy like Carey Price. He is a true superstar that would do so much for Seattle as a franchise starting off, even if he's not in a Seattle jersey to start the season. Or maybe they get lucky and his injury woes are not that serious. He doesn't miss that much time. I mean, that's what I'm hoping for as a Habs fan. If he ends up staying with us, right? There's no indication that it's going to be serious and long term. But I think Seattle probably has to think about, just like Shea Weber, the accumulation of injuries over an entire career. Montreal has really thrown a curveball towards Ron Francis and the Seattle Kraken in this expansion draft. I don't think they were expecting to see Carey Price exposed whatsoever. I think they had their eyes on Jake Allen, not only because he's a veteran, experienced goaltender who can make the saves, who can get wins, but his contract is just beautiful. It's short term. It's a low cap hit, and it just would have been a perfect guy to basically play 1A, 1B with Chris Dredger, if that's who they do sign from Florida. So I see what Bergevin's trying to do. He's trying to keep his entire team together without losing someone of value. He might overplay his hand here, though. I mean, if you look at the rest of the expansion list, or the protection list by the Montreal Canadiens, they've protected Lehkonen and Armia. Armia is an interesting one because he's an unrestricted free agent. It goes to show what type of value the Canadiens see in Joel Armia, and that they definitely intend to try and get him re-signed this offseason here. But they protect Lehkonen. We get to protect the big three on defense, Petrie, Edmondson, and Sherratt. They also protect Kotkaniemi, Brendan Gallagher, Tyler Toffoli, and as well as Jake Evans. Mark doesn't want to lose anyone of value here. The thing is he's exposed players that do have value. Whether or not Seattle sees it that way, I don't know. We got Jonathan Drouin who's exposed. His situation's up in the air. You got to think Seattle will avoid him. Paul Byron is exposed. I don't think they're going to want his contract. Then there's Price and Weber. We've just talked about Price. I talked about Weber on a previous video. I don't think they're going to take a risk on Weber. With Carey, it's up in the air. But then you think about who else would they take from us that's worth it for them? There's Brett Kulak. He's got 1 year left on his contract. He could play some top 4 minutes for them, be a steady bottom pair guy like he has been for us. But another one I'm looking at, I'm essentially who I think we have to hope they take is Cale Fleury. Because if they end up drafting Hayden Fleury, Cale's brother, who's also available in the expansion draft, they might also want to bring in Cale. And I really like Cale as a prospect, as a right-handed defenseman with the big body. I think Montreal's doing a good job developing him slowly. They gave him a taste of the NHL. Then he just spent a full year in Laval. I think he's got a great career ahead of him. Even if it's just as a big top, number 4 shutdown D. Or even if it's just a solid bottom pair guy. But I think essentially that's who we have to hope Seattle takes. And do you think Seattle's taking Cale Fleury over Carey Price? Even with the injury issues and the contract. I find it funny that I'm seeing on Reddit, Twitter, wherever, a lot of the people saying that Carey Price won't get selected are the same people that have been dogging his contract year after year, while Carey continuously gets voted as the best goaltender in the league by the NHL Players Association up until this year when Vasilevsky won it. I think the view of Carey Price is very different from some fans as it is from hockey executives. I think hockey executives know the impact that Carey can have on a franchise. More so than fans thinking, oh, his contract's bad. No one wants to build a team around that much, putting that much into goaltending and blah, blah, blah. All those hot takes we've heard over the years. Seattle's going to do their due diligence here. They've already been given the green light by their ownership to take on Carey's contract. If you're that hockey ops department and ownership has given you the green light, I don't think there's much else to discuss. I think you take Carey Price. And I hope I'm wrong. I really hope I'm wrong. I want to see him remain as the Montreal Canadiens goaltender. I have confidence that he can close out or at least play the majority of his contract very well. Once he deals with whatever's ailing him, hopefully it's not too serious, I think he comes back with a vengeance to win a cup in Montreal. He only signed this contract 3-4 years ago, and he said straight out he doesn't see himself in another jersey. He wants to retire a Montreal Canadian. Bergevin said that it's important to him that Carey closes out his career in Montreal. This is just, I would have never expected it. No, never would have expected this. But something I also just thought of, Phil Deneau could actually be a key in this whole situation because he has also been exposed to the draft as well. He is an unrestricted free agent, so Seattle would have to essentially know ahead of time whether or not he's interested in signing with them. But the thing there is there's not many centers available in the expansion draft that can play strong top 6 minutes. So unless they have someone lined up in free agency or they hit an absolute home run in the NHL entry draft, you got to think they're going to want to shore up that top 6 in terms of their centermen. And Phil Deneau is a guy who can, maybe his offensive upside isn't upper echelon in the NHL, but his defensive game absolutely is. And he can log big minutes in your top six. He can match up against essentially any top six high-skilled center in the NHL. So you got to wonder if Seattle goes after him in the expansion draft and then signs him, and then that would keep Carey Price with the Montreal Canadiens. That is a possibility. But the other possibility is that they take Carey Price. Now, what does that mean for the Habs? We just freed up $10.5 million in cap space over the next 5 years that we are essentially at this point handcuffed to and have been handcuffed to unless a team like Seattle takes that away from us. I wouldn't call it doing us a favor, but it almost makes this, and I don't really want to call it a win-win either. I don't think you lose Carey Price and come out on the other end as a better franchise. I mean, his impact has already been felt, especially with a lot of the young guys on the team. So it's not really a losing situation for us either. But I think you know what I mean. You don't want to lose Carey Price for nothing. I don't think that's a good situation. But the $10.5 million in cap space could go a long way in signing a free agent and locking up Nick Suzuki, in locking up Cole Caulfield. Montreal's got to pay some of these guys sooner rather than later. Yeah, there's a lot to be said there as well. I mean, just think if we happen to lose Carey Price to the expansion draft, if Weber goes on long-term injured reserve, that's over 18 million, well over 18 million in cap space that this team will have. And that's not even taking into consideration the Jonathan Drouin situation where he may hit long-term injured reserve depending on what plays out there. And that's another 5.5 million per year added over the next couple years for him on the cap for the Habs. All that being said, I'd rather be a cup contending team. We just made the Stanley Cup final. I was hoping that all these guys would just take the time off, heal up, maybe miss a bit of the season if need be, but we'd come back essentially a very similar franchise next year. That doesn't look like it's going to be the case, unfortunately. But I think I've rambled on just about enough at this point. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. If you like these videos, hit that like and subscribe button. It's going to be an interesting couple days. We're just going to be teased and pulled in every which way from, the insiders and everyone's takes and whatever. But just going to have to wait it out, see what happens. I honestly think it's a flip of a coin at this point. There's pros and cons for each side of the argument. I personally lean towards Seattle taking Carey, and I'd love to be wrong, but I'd also love to hear what you guys have to say. Go Habs, go, baby. Let's hope this pays off by Bergevin. If we get through another expansion draft unscathed, the guy's a goddamn genius. Seriously.